It was the first part of February 1781, and the Battle of Cowpens in South Carolina had just been fought, with an American victory. British General Cornwallis, along with his army, were pursuing Generals Morgan and Greene from the South Carolina border across North Carolina into the border of Virginia. The Americans were always just ahead of the British in the race to the Dan. After a short while in Virginia, the American army returned to North Carolina, where the Battle of Guilford Courthouse was fought. The following narrative comes from the book Centennial History of Davidson County, North Carolina, by Jacob Leonard, published in 1927. Many strange stories have been told of things seen and heard in the vicinity of Abbotts Creek at the Crotts Bridge crossing. All these supernatural phenomena, which have been reported as occurring at or near Crotts Bridge on Abbotts Creek, are connected with a great historical fact. Cornwallis, the great head of the English army in the Revolutionary War, in his famous march through North Carolina, crossed Abbotts Creek a few hundred yards above the site of the present bridge at the sharp bend of the stream. This was in the last months of the year 1780 and the first months of the year 1781. One day in February, Cornwallis crossed Abbotts Creek at the point stated, and from that day down through the years, there has been trouble for many people in that vicinity. It is said that when the British arrived at this point, they still had in their possession very much money in gold and silver. Money was a commodity very difficult to carry along under the circumstances of continued forced marches. Cornwallis is quoted as having said it was much easier to carry food than money. Besides, the Tories were very eager to furnish his army with supplies. And so, for the present, he must get rid of that sordid heavy load of coin. Under cover of the night, he ordered certain of his men to lower the barrel full of gold and silver into the waters of Abbotts Creek. This order was carried out according to instructions, and from that day to this, that stream has been the proud possessor of more wealth than any warm-blooded citizen of the county. And the ghosts of the creek have gone out in the vicinity and have done strange things. The ghosts of Abbotts Creek at this point have been known to show themselves at night as lights moving along over the waters of the stream where the money was concealed, up its steep banks, through the forests on either side. But they would not allow a man who might be able to summon nerve and courage sufficient to come near and make an investigation. Many citizens were eyewitnesses to the reality of these strange appearances of fire, and it is said that the supernatural lights always disappeared in Abbotts Creek at the point where Cornwallis crossed. That same barrel of gold has been heard by reputable citizens at all hours of the day and night, especially in the night time, rolling down the hill and finally splashing into the waters of Abbotts Creek. No less a character than a well-known justice of the peace, who lived to be a very old man, departing this life 38 years ago, at the age of 89 years, gave it upon his word of honor that he heard that barrel of money in one of its excursions go bumping down over rocks and roots and stumps through the forest, and at length plunge with a mighty splash into the creek. He could discern exactly the starting point, the course the barrel took on its way down the hillside, the point on the bank where it jumped into the stream. He looked to see the splash of the waves on the surface caused by the impact of the barrel, but not a wave did he see. No wonder the old gentleman's hair stood on end in its snowy whiteness, for was he not standing in the very presence of the ghosts of Abbotts Creek, ghosts, too, who were standing guard over the great treasure of gold and silver deposited there by the renowned Lord Cornwallis of the British Army? Might it not be that the spirit of the great general himself had come back from the realms of the dead? Who could feel perfectly at home in company with invisible visitors? Who would not leave such a spot with an accelerated pace? So ends Jacob Leonard's account of the ghosts of Abbotts Creek. A fanciful story for sure, but what about the historical facts about Cornwallis's march across North Carolina? It is true that the Americans crossed over the Yadkin River northeast of Salisbury and traveled on the road near the present location of Lexington and Abbotts Creek, and then resumed their march towards the Abbotts Creek Church, and then to Guilford Courthouse. Cornwallis and his army arrived too late to cross the Yadkin in pursuit of the Americans, as the waters of the river had risen. Therefore, they had to travel north and cross the Yadkin at the shallow ford, then through Bethania, Bethabara, and Salem. From there, they somewhat paralleled the American movement all the way to the Virginia border. It would seem that they were not in the vicinity of the Lexington area. Perhaps they could have crossed Abbotts Creek further north, where the Abbotts Creek Church was located. It could be that a contingent of Cornwallis's army were somehow farther south and in the location of the present-day town of Lexington. We will never know for sure. One thing is for sure, though. There are still those who experience strange noises and sightings at Abbotts Creek.